Hi, folks. My name is Dan Zetterström, and you might know me from the breakdown on that UFO podcast or Ancient Aliens.
Hey guys, my name is Vinnie Adams and I am from Disclosure Team. And we're here today to give a presentation on the work that we have been doing for the past 2 years in Colombia as part of the Phenomenology team.
So, phenomenology, the word, is a reference to a term that ultimately means how we interpret things. So, you will see the color red and you might think of love. I'll see the color red and I might think of danger. That is phenomenology. It's bringing all of our experiences to these things. And if you've been reading about the UFO subject for long, then you know that people's experience, worldviews impact how they see things. So when we went out to Colombia, we really wanted to absorb the culture and meet the people there and see the lenses through which they were seeing all of these phenomena. Vinny, do you want to kind of just tell the story about this photo and you meeting Ash?
Yeah, absolutely. So this photo here shows the peak of the main sort of mountain in the area, La Peña de Huayca. And for a few years prior to our first journey out to Colombia, Ashley Cowie, the sort of head of the project, had been photographing these strange lights that occur now and again randomly on this peak. And this is what really prompted him into contacting myself and really start to put a team together to actually go out there and do what we can and investigate this strange phenomena.
So Ashley's pitch that was that a team goes out and we investigate a few different sightings as well as kind of trying to get to grips with things on the actual mountain. So with that, let's dive in.
Yeah. Okay, so 45 kilometers north of Bogota, the colonial towns of Tenjo and Tabio were officially founded in the early 17th century. Both were built upon indigenous Muisca settlements in a deeply sacred valley dedicated to observing the moon and worshipping the lunar goddess Chia. In 1606 AD, La Peña de Huayca was baptized as the Hill of Dancing Lights after unexplained phenomena seen in the air between it and El Mojoy. Over time, the lights have been called El Canto, Le Rancheros, Mojan, Lucero, Quicoyo, and Balón de Oro. However, over the last 60 years, the lights have been most often been reported as ovnis or UFOs.
The phenomena itself, up until we went there, has never really been recorded. It's been reported a whole lot. Like Vinny said, to the point where the hill itself was baptized as the Hill of the Dancing Lights by the Spanish. So we were there to dig in and to hopefully record them for the very first time and confirm their presence there. So we all went to this house where you can see there in the left image with the kind of windmill, a peak in the distance. That is La Pena de Huayca. So we had a great view from the house, and many nights we were sat kind of watching the mountain to see any activity. And it was interesting because there were roads on the mountain that we weren't familiar with. So you kind of have to acclimatize to what lights should there be, what lights are looking strange. So things like cars going along roads, people walking with torches, that kind of stuff. So we kind of got acclimatized to those over a few nights, as well as visiting the local town of Tabio, where it was covered in various bits of graffiti and murals and things like that, where you're not just seeing this religious symbolism where, you can see the church there on the left. If you look in the top right of the image, you can see a little UFO poking out of the clouds. And then we've got the image from Fatima. And then we've got a full-on saucer beaming something up from the mountain. So suffice to say, the culture there really embraces the UFOs all the way to the point where it's actually in their town symbol that you can see on the left there. The first investigation we did was a related family member to one of the crew. They thought that they'd seen a blue light one night. Vinny, do you want to take people through just what they saw? I realize I'm talking a lot.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So we were presented one morning with this blue light video that was taken, on a cell phone, and automatically, there were differences of opinion and views on what people thought it showed. I think I could confidently say that Dan and I had very similar views because we had seen similar videos posted online previously, and to us it did resemble some kind of transformer exploding or something like that. But obviously, we wanted to actually go out and get to the bottom of it. So we went and actually met with the family, interviewed them in the first instance, and then actually went out further along to investigate the location.
So this is the actual video. So you can see that's looped there. And anyone that's seen, videos from New York when transformers have blown and things like that will be familiar with these blue pulsing lights that happen. In this case, we were able to go to the property and be shown by the witnesses which direction the light came from. And an interesting part of this actually was some of the witnesses were more skeptical. Some were more kind of believing that it was, there were theories like that it was a bit of information from another dimension. So this experience really got the mouths watering. The discussion was going hard. And when being shown the directions that this phenomena occurred, I got shown 2 or 3 different directions, which is to, right back to the original title, Phenomenology. We're talking about people's experiences here, and that varies. They say the more you remember something, the less you actually remember it. It's your brain kind of replacing the images. So this was no different. What we actually did was Vinnie flew a drone, or Walter in that case. Vinnie had a drone during season 2. We flew a drone straight over the valley to see roughly what was there. And we found all these transformer poles, and we went and spoke to the residents who lived right by the transformer poles. And in this case, we found the exact transformer that blew. The witness there, or sorry, the homeowner there was telling us that they actually have oxygen canisters in the house. So they have to be really on top of safety there. They couldn't have like this thing exploding outside. So she remembered the day that she had to call for help to basically get them to come and fix this transformer. So when we presented this to the family, they wanted us to investigate more, but we all kind of agreed as a group that 99.9% sure it was this transformer, and so we all kind of elected to move on. But we really wanted to start this by showing that we're taking a data-driven approach out there. Each team member had their different ideas, and neither were more important than anyone else's. And we ultimately came to these balanced conclusions. So whilst we were out there, as I said, we wanted to experience the culture. So we actually went to some of the local Muisca tribe, the indigenous tribes in the area, and we did exactly that. We took part in the ceremonies. We helped build wells with them. And they put us through these kind of rituals in the temples that you can see on the bottom left there. And it was an experience of birthing. This is how they explained it. You get birthed into the universe, and the temple represented the universe itself. So it was us kind of passing through. And while we were in there, we got to hear a lot of UFO stories, basically, stories of triangles, stories of orbs kind of hovering over the city. But once again, people weren't using the same language. Some people said orbs, some people said lights, other people said ancestor spirits. So we're talking about the same phenomena, but by so many different names. And I always hear people say, well, why aren't there more reports from South America or other parts of the world? And this is the reason. It's because they use different terminology. They hold these experiences differently. These are really deeply spiritual experiences that people don't run to the newspaper to talk about. These are personal. Eagle-eyed people on the bottom right there will notice a whole bunch of symbology kind of painted over that temple. So feel free to take a screenshot and dig in. It's really interesting, but note especially the spiral over the door.
So on this image here, we have the top of the mountain El Mahoy. Now, this is the opposite mountain to La Peña de Huayca. And it is said that the light emanates or begins at El Mahoy and flies across the valley to the peak of La Peña de Huayca. So on our very first trip out there to Colombia in season 1, we made sure that we went to the top of El Mahoy as well, got good bearings across the valley so that we really could pinpoint where to keep an eye on throughout the whole time.
I just wanted to touch on this. That basically, we looked up the basically the magnetic anomaly grid. You can get this data, you can plug it into Google Earth, and you can take a look at the areas. And there a lot has been said about kind of correlations to UFO sightings and things like that. So we ran with the data, and we found that actually one of the peaks that Vinnie just mentioned was in a positive magnetic anomaly, and another peak, the opposite one, El Mohoy, was in a negative anomaly. So really what we're looking at is essentially like a dipole. And there's this river that runs between the mountains that we kind of, I say, hypothesized. We threw around the idea that perhaps this was forming essentially a natural battery. And so these electric balls were moving between the peaks. It was nice to kind of see this bear out by the data here.
I think it's also worth mentioning with the blue and the red on there that I think speculation wise, you could say that this light phenomena is caused by this natural battery. But on the other side of things, it could be said that this is what draws in this phenomena because it sees the energy or the power and it's drawn to it. So it can be interpreted in different ways still, I think.
Yeah. And I'm just going to point people back to the title, Phenomenology. You're seeing it happen right here. We need to appreciate these differences. It's great. So this is La Pena de Huayca. You can see that the front there is, almost completely flat. You'd kind of have to abseil down it, and it was an arduous trek up there. I've done it twice now. I did it in season 2, which you'll see a little bit about why in a second. Vinnie did it the first year we went, and it was dangerous, right?
It's a very dangerous climb. There is kind of a path up there, but it's very basic. It gets very tricky and treacherous in places. And I think it's also important to point out that this mountain is most of the year actually closed to hikers, closed to members of the public. And so to enable us to get up there, we had to get permission by the police, and there was a lot of conversations back and forth before we were able to set foot on the mountain.
The actual path up itself isn't even a path, right? It's kind of like a dried up river. So if you get stuck up this mountain when it rains, you're screwed. Basically, you can't go down the same way. So it's really unconventional to get up there. And just a little side anecdote, because I love this moment. We asked the police that were escorting us up the mountain. We said, "Have you seen the lights?" And they laughed, and we were like, why are you laughing? Is it because you don't believe in them? Like, you haven't seen them, you don't believe the stories? And they said, no, we're not laughing because of that. We're laughing because you say lights, just say UFOs. So even the officials in this town are very familiar with, what's going on in the mountain, and have their own sightings, wildly different from the UK and a lot of places around the world. So we went up to see what we could see, basically.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say as well that the lights which we're about to see here that we filmed when we were there, if you look at the flat face there, that's known as the Mirador, and that is the location where the lights have been seen the most throughout the past few years, certainly with Ashley Cowie taking photographs. But like Dan said, you would have to abseil down that flat face. There are very limited pathways to get to the edge of that. There is one location that we know of. So when watching the video of the lights, I think, this hypothesis that it could have been people with flashlights or hikers, I think you need to take into account the absolute difficulty it would be to film lights on that flat face.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, let's stop people biting the nails and waiting. This is the footage that we managed to capture the first year we were there, and Vinnie was an eyewitness to this. I didn't have quite the right angle on the mountain to see it, but with him is Natalia, who is Ashley Cowie's partner. You'll hear her in the video as well as Ashley himself. What you're seeing is on the flat face of the mountain, as Vinnie said, but you can go to Project Huayca, which, the URL will be at the end of this presentation, and you can see all the raw footage, and you can see the lights essentially, kind of like sparkling all over the mountain. It wasn't just in this one area. So yeah, without further ado, here's what we filmed. The slight wobble you're seeing there is actually a wobble of the camera itself. So this thing isn't bobbing, but it is kind of, just in the air.
One thing that I will say when witnessing these lights from the location, obviously it's like a lot of things, the video just doesn't do it justice to seeing it with the naked eye. These were extremely intense, bright lights. The smaller lights that you see coming off the side was such a spectacle to witness firsthand. So I just felt like that needed to be reiterated.
I love the excitement that you can hear in Natalie's voice. So you can see, as well as this floating ball of light there, you can see some light splitting off it. They make a triangle shape. At one point, it kind of spits out this tail to the side, which is exactly why it's called the dancing lights. That was a dance. That's what people refer to as the dance. And then at the end there, it changes color as well to red, which is really interesting. So we kind of started having a look around kind of other areas, and we found that there was a report done by a group of scientists in Hesdallen, Norway, which if you scan that QR code on the screen, it'll take you straight to that long form report. In that, they'd kind of discovered a whole bunch of other places around the world that kind of have this phenomena. The Longdendale Valley in the UK, the Popocatépetl volcano. I always have trouble saying that. Popocatépetl in Mexico. That's one that if you know Jamie Maswan, he's a Mexican ufologist. He posts a lot of videos from there. But you can look on that list, and there's even more on the paper. If you live near any of these places, go take a look because this stuff happens. I was recently very fortunate to be in the Brown Mountains, and I got to see a lot of the lights and the phenomena there, which I won't show you all this video, but you can see essentially we're looking at very similar bits of phenomena. You got that little blur there. My favorite one is right towards the end here, where you kind of see this red light kind of floating upwards off the mountain, and it just persists until it just kind of disappears. So all that to say is that these are in more places. They can be studied in more places in Colombia, and this phenomena seems to be really widespread. So at this point, we were like, well, what are we looking at? Like, has any work been done on this at all? And we came across a book called by Paul Devereaux. Vinnie, I'll let you explain the book.
Yeah, so Paul Devereaux wrote the book Earthlights Revelations back in the 1980s, and it was a really substantial and deep dive into all sorts of strange light phenomena, whether it be like here on the screen, earthquake lights, will-o'-the-wisp, ball lightning, earth lights, life, or flashlights and hikers. There was a really in-depth study done, especially in the UK. But the thing that we did notice is all of this research seemed to abruptly end, very much in the early 90s. And since then, there's very little work other than the work at Hesdallen with Erling Strand that seems to be continued to this day. So I found that very interesting.
Yeah, it was really amazing. And to see that Paul and David Clark and a few other authors had kind of done this. It was called Project Pendine, and they looked at mythical reports of dragons in the sky and things like that, because people are just trying to use the language they know to describe them. They, as well as that, they looked along fault lines, and they tried to ascribe the term Earthlights into different categories, and that's what you're seeing on the screen there. So Earthquake Lights, Will of the Wisp, Ball Lightning, Earthlights, they're kind of the four main categories, but the mystery is these Earthlights things. They could be life, or they could be something mundane like hikers, or UAP or something like that. So we were very pleased to find that. But since that was written, there's obviously a much wider democratization of technology. It's dropped in cost and things like that. So there's more we can do and jump off of these studies. What we need to remember as well is the effect that we're seeing. So we're essentially seeing lift without propulsion with these things. These are just balls of light that are flowing in the sky. How they're doing it, we don't know. So I'm just going to turn that anti-gravity for now, lift without propulsion. Then we also see that kind of spitting off, the dancing light there. It moves really, really fast. And like I said, you can see it all over the mountain, whether it's the same thing or, just a natural phenomenon producing it. We're looking at, some kind of instant acceleration. Go on, Vinnie.
I was just going to say, when we've spoken to a lot of the locals as well in the area, they have given us other examples where the 5 observables fit even better, where these objects do just dance around, but then suddenly shoot off, vertically and right up into sort of the atmosphere and stuff. So it really does fit with all of the observables.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's never any sound reported either. So we're back to hypersonic speed with no signatures, no sound or sonic boom. Then we've got low observability. You can see them flitting in and out and changing colors. In Hesdallen, they found that when these lights disappeared, they were still available on the infrared scopes. So they weren't really going away. They're just kind of going into another part of the spectrum, and we can't actually see that. And then as well as that, these things are going between water, they're going between air, they seem to be coming out of the rock. So we're looking at transmedium kind of action, and they seem immune to pressure and things like that. So these are all suggestive of some characteristics of these things. Something that's immune to pressure means that it's keeping its own internal pressure. But to kind of generate that amount of light and do that, this is a phenomena that just science isn't familiar with. This is a little bit outside of its wheelhouse. So that brings us to season 2. So this is the team that was assembled for season 2. I won't go through everyone, but there are a few core members that are the same: Ashley, myself, Walter, Natalia, Vinnie, and then there are some new people there. And it's really great kind of switching up the team members, because it keeps us all on our toes. People have different backgrounds, maybe esoteric, maybe in ancient civilizations, and they all get to kind of put a different lens on this stuff and explore the phenomenological aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's from science to spirituality and everything in between.
I like that. So I'm going to let you run through this, Vinnie, because you had a very unique vantage point on this.
Yeah, so the main thing that we wanted to try and recreate in season 2 was, is it or could it have been hikers with torches? We're going for the obvious kind of choices as to what the lights could have represented. So we basically set about getting the equipment set up first. Everyday kind of head torches, regular torches, and what we wanted as well was to try and recreate the absolute sheer brightness of the lights. And so we acquired 120,000 lumen high intensity torch as well, which you can see the bottom right hand side there. That is, the dead of night illuminating a huge circle, which could be seen across the valley.
And you can see the results and the comparison of the footage in season 2 of Phenomenology. You'll see a setting up for it in the first episode, which you can see on Vimeo. Again, there's a link at the end, so you guys can have a look at that. We also spent Holy Friday, which is said to be the most active night of the year for the lights. We split into 2 teams. One team watched one mountain peak, and the other team watched the other mountain peak. This is a picture of me, Hayden, Danny, and Elena watching El Morhoy to see if there were any active lights there. And unfortunately, there weren't, but it was a really lovely time. And Holy Friday is just a very spiritual time anyway, so you really got to immerse yourself in the culture here.
Yeah, so as well as obviously doing the experiments, trying to recreate the lights and focusing on the light phenomena on La Peña de Huayca and El Mojoy, we did actually travel around Colombia a little bit more this time, looking at what have been told in other stories as similar light phenomena. One of them being Lake Tota and the Strange Star. So we had this house that you can see in the bottom right corner where we all stayed and had this glorious views of the lake. And if you can see in the middle of the lake, you can see some groups of trees. Those are the islands of Lake Tota. And the original story goes that now and again, a big golden ball of light would emanate or begin on these islands, rise into the sky, and basically just shoot around all over Lake Tota. And the most recent reported sighting of the strange star was actually in January of 2023. So this year, a lady who lived on the banks of the lake was doing the washing up in her kitchen, looking out of her window, and she just watched that occur. She watched it form on the island, rise up into the sky, and just dance around all over the lake. So obviously this was another place that we felt was indicative of the kind of phenomena we've been looking into. So we wanted to go there and see what we could see. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see the strange star. But again, I think, it's good to put yourselves in these places and just try and experience the feelings of what people must have got seeing such strange things.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a little clip that we've included just so people can see a little bit about the last episode and what it entails.
I'm not getting any sound on that, by the way.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. So people are basically exploring the different rocks and talking about it. Here I'm talking about this looking quite serpentine. And you can see almost the effect of that rounded on the end, but also a leathery, serpenty type skin, scales there. So we're going right up into the hills, into just a sacred space to kind of see these things. And we found something really amazing there as well, which you can see in the final episode. Sorry that there was no sound there. But my commentary was good. It was solid. I didn't make anything up, I promise. So future plans. Go ahead, Vinnie.
Yeah, so we want to try and get back out there and prove that this phenomena is repeatable. It's something that can be studied. We've had all of the wonderful images that Ashley Cowie has taken over the past sort of 3 to 4 years. We've had the lights that we filmed in season 1, and we're just trying to kind of build on it each time that we go out there. So we will be returning in 2024, and we do have sort of applications open for extra people to come and join the team. And add a new perspective and just experience the wonderful place that is Colombia. Then we are going to be sort of incorporating infrared cameras, trail cameras on the mountain. We'd like to camp on the mountain and see if we can see anything from that different perspective, and then potentially live streaming to other platforms such as YouTube as well.
Ashley since season 1 has also set up this cabanita that kind of looks at the mountain. And you'll see, not just while we're all out here doing this, but he'll do live broadcasts where you can just watch the sunset behind the mountain and see if you can see any lights there as well. I don't know if anyone out there was familiar with Hesdallen, but I spent my teenage years just watching the webcams to see if I could see any action, and you can do the same now. That was a 460p webcam, terrible resolution. And now Ashley's broadcasting in 4K to YouTube live from Colombia. So you can probably get involved and help this kind of citizen science effort. And the direction that it takes. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. You can see mine and Vinny's contact details here. You can find us on social media under the names there. I'm the Signal, that's like the signal, but with a Z instead of an S. Vinny is Disclosure Team. If you pop to that URL or you scan the QR code in the top right corner there, it'll take you right to the Vimeo page where you can rent the series and take a look-see at it. The thing I love about the series is that Ashley approaches it not as a UFO documentary, but as a nature series. So it looks really beautiful. You'll learn a lot as well. And for me, this is kind of where everything's going. This phenomena is something we currently don't understand, but ultimately it's just a part of nature.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth reiterating that we're not scientists, but we're out there, boots on the ground, speaking to locals, trying to understand the phenomenology behind what's been happening there. And it really is a life-changing experience. I think anybody that goes out there and doesn't feel different afterwards, they haven't approached it in the right manner.
Cool. Well, thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you're enjoying Anomicon, and thank you to Ryan for having us. And yeah, have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.